I get the feeling I've said this more often than not, but there wasn't really a whole lot that happened this month to report, so I get the feeling this is going to be a pretty short update, but I'll try my best. I guess I'll just start with the first major thing to talk about. I have been approved for bottom surgery. It was one of those things that, when I had the consultation back in September, we set up a bit of a tentative date in January. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to have all my affairs in order by that tentative date, and it turns out that I would, and so I confirmed the appointment. And so, starting January 27th, I'm going to be on my way. It's very exciting, but also just a fair bit nerve-wracking as these past few months, things have just been breaking down on me. And not people, I mean very important appliances. And so there's kind of this fear of not having enough money for this. But it's one of those things that I've reasoned that if I waited for everything to be perfect, I would probably never be able to get this surgery. Because dang it, I don't think there's ever going to be a perfect time for this. Much like there was never really a perfect time to start transitioning. Although I'd like to think I got pretty close to the perfect timing. Mostly because it was at a time where it was a little more well understood. And I really had a lot of time to think it over to really get all the justification I needed. So yeah, it's exciting. And just kind of thinking about it, it just makes me drown in a sea of euphoria. I'm so looking forward to this. It was one of those things that when I was going through puberty the first time, I was just hoping that my body would just naturally eat up that particular section. And then it would just turn into what I wanted. Obviously, real life doesn't work out that way, so you need a surgical intervention. And that's what I'm going to be going for. So, I'll probably discuss this more as the time gets closer, but in terms of my channel, I'm going to try to record a bunch of episodes, and then I'll just kind of slowly release them while I am in my recovery state. I'm not sure if this is something that applies to YouTubers that are being monetized or not, but I can't help thinking there's this idea that if you don't upload enough, they delete the channel. And I don't want to have to worry about such things, so I'm going to come up with content. And one of the other things to keep in mind as well is it's going to be a long time for recovery. So the biggest things are, I'm going to get a copy of Tears of the Kingdom, because Breath of the Wild took me a very long time to beat, and it'd be nice to experience more of that for the first time. And I'm going to go for a little bit of light reading. Les Miserables. This is going to keep me occupied for a long time. And on top of that, I've heard more people speak fondly of this than War and Peace. And you know, this will be the third book I've ever read that was well over 1,000 pages. 1,459. Yeah, Gone with the Wind, maybe Atlas Shrugged is about that long. It's a big book. So I kind of wonder how in the world they condensed all this down to a play, but I'm going to potentially find out. I guess really the only other thing I have to mention, and this is really more just as an aside, I've been feeling a little self-conscious about my voice lately, and I'm not really sure if I've ever done a side-to-side comparison of the two. So, figure why not do that now? Here is a clip of what my voice used to sound like. The first dub of the movie was done in 1988, 2 years after this first released in Japan. It was made by a small dubbing company known as Way, which is spelled Waay. And this is what I sound like now. What do you think? This is one of the problems I have when it comes to editing, is I find that the camera microphone makes my voice sound a little deeper, but yet whenever I use the recording microphone for when I'm narrating over videos, it seems to pick up a much higher voice. Maybe it has something to do with acoustics or whatnot, but, well, that's all I've got. Oh, there is one other thing I guess I can mention. So, Thanksgiving. It was a rather interesting time. Kind of gotten to a point with my dad's side of the family that they all know me as Julia. There was one time one of my relatives got the name messed up. They're just like, right, it's Julia now. And I'm just said, you know what? You're trying. That's all I asked. And on top of that, everybody else is doing all right. Now, if you're getting my name wrong on purpose, that's one thing. But if you're getting it wrong by mistake, it's like the equivalent of when the new year passes and whenever you write something out, you still write the old year for the first month or two. That's why they call it a transition. It's something that takes time. Believe me, there's times I wish it could just be instantaneous, but we live in the real world. If nothing else, I'm just happy that transitioning is even possible. I could not imagine what it must have been like for people in olden times before we had these kind of scientific advancements to just kind of be a prisoner in your own body, and maybe, just maybe, you could find some way to relieve that pain through fictional writing or perhaps by dreams. The idea of telling people about my surgery, it was very much like coming out of the closet for the second time, which I find very strange as everybody knows I'm trans at this point. But I don't know. It almost kind of feels like there is an element of doubt, kind of this idea of, oh, once they come to their senses, they'll just go back to the way we're used to seeing them. But when you tell people that you're going in for surgery, it's like, oh, you were serious about that. Yes. Yes, I was. Why didn't you think I was? And the crazy thing is, if I really wanted to, there's certain people I can come out of the closet a third time to. But I'd rather not. And then there was one other thing as well. It's been a bit of a long day, so I'm a little right now, so pardon how I keep saying one more thing. And that is a reference to Jackie Chan Adventures. The other thing I wanted to say is I have no idea how in the world I was able to get my nails to grow this long. And the crazy thing is I'm right-handed. So why in the world are they all scraped on this side? I don't know. Maybe I'm right-handed, but I just use my left hand more often. Whatever. Okay. Let me just stop for a second. Yes, that is everything I can think about. If there's any questions you have, feel free to leave a comment down below. As always, no politics. I get enough of that in my daily life as it is. Until next time, be yourself, no matter who that is.